Hello everybody and welcome back to the Commander Tribe Elder. Today we're going to go ahead and do an upgrade for the Kaldheim Phantom Premonition Precon deck. The commander in charge is Ranar, the Ever Watchful. It's 2, a white and a blue for a 2/3 Spirit Warrior. It has flying and vigilance, and the first card you foretell each turn costs 0 to foretell. So when you're playing the card in exile, that's when it costs the 0. Whenever you exile one or more cards from your hand and or permanents from the battlefield, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. So I did go towards the tribal aspect of this. I added a lot of spirits and then some things that synergized with them. I did remove about 31 cards from this, including lands this time, just because I felt it was a little slower on the take with all the tap lands. So I have 7 lands that I removed, 1 non-tap land, Opal Palace, and then all the rest enter the battlefield tapped: Azorius Chancery, Meandering River, Synergy Refuge, Azorius Guildgate, Gates of Istfell, and Tranquil Cove. And in their place, I put Henchgate Pathway. This enters as either an untapped white mana source or an untapped blue mana source. Endless Sands. Tap, add a colorless to your mana pool. Pay 2, tap, exile creature you control. Pay 4, tap, sacrifice Endless Sands. Return each creature card you exiled with Endless Sands to the battlefield under its owner's control. One thing you don't want to do is exile your commander, because if somebody destroys it, then it's gone permanently. And also this is just going to help stack up those exile triggers, and can also help with the enter the battlefield triggers and the least play triggers. So I thought it was good and see how it run. I added the Shockland, Hallowed Fountain. Enters the battlefield. You may pay 2 life. If you don't, it enters the battlefield tapped, so it does have a way of becoming untapped. Ash Barrens, you tap it for a colorless, and it has basic land cycling for 1. Survivor's Encampment, add a colorless to your mana pool. You could tap an untapped creature you control, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. We're going to be creating a lot of spirits, and so you can use those for an extra mana of any color. Prairie Stream, it adds a blue or a white, and it enters the battlefield unless you control 2 or more basic lands. So this can also have a really good potential for coming into the battlefield untapped. And Glacial Fortress, it enters the battlefield tapped unless you control plains or islands, and it'll add either a white or a blue to your mana pool. So again, has a really good chance of coming into the battlefield untapped. Now for the main cards, I removed... first of all, I did add Spirit Trouble, so remember that kind of going through. This is Stoic Farmer. It's 3 and a white for a 3/3 Dwarf Peasant. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for a basic Plains card, reveal it. If an opponent controls more lands than you, put it into the battlefield tapped. Otherwise, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. And yes, you can foretell this, and it only costs 2 to place it down, and then 1 and a white to cast it. I removed this because it's dwarf. Yes, you can blink it and get some effect off of it, but I don't like that it's conditional if it comes into the battlefield, and then it comes in the battlefield tapped. So, too much working against this one. In its place, I just put a solid guarantee, Wayfarer's Bauble. It's 1 for an artifact. You pay 2, tap it, sacrifice it, search your library for a basic land card, put into the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. Yeah, it still comes in the battlefield tapped, but it's a guarantee. It's a one-shot deal, and I'm much happier taking that hit in CMC from 4 down to 1. The next card I removed was Burnished Heart. It's 3 for a 2/2 artifact creature elk. You could pay 3, sacrifice it, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them into the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. I don't like this because I didn't replace it with a spirit, but And if you blink it, it does absolutely nothing. So I went for a card that we can blink, and that's Solemn Simulacrum, aka Sad Robot. It's 4 for 2/2 Golem. That's an artifact creature. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, put that into the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. When it dies, you may draw a card. So we could blank this and have those triggers come off and just put the lands into the battlefield. And we don't have to worry about a sacrifice, which has nothing to do with anything in here. The next card I removed was Windfall. It's 2 and a blue for a sorcery. Each player discards their hand, then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discarded this way. This was a little rough to remove because it's a great card. I like these in wheel decks and mill decks and Nekuzar decks. Anything that's going to actually have an advantage for me, for you getting extra cards in your hands. This deck doesn't do that. So I added a card from my Brago deck that's just a lot of fun to blink, and it only provides us with the bonus. And that's Ichor Wellspring. It's 2 for an artifact. When it enters the battlefield or is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, draw a card. So you pay 2, you're drawing immediately, you play one of your blinks, and as long as this gets caught up in it, you can draw a card. The next card I removed was Tales of the Ancestors. It's 3 and a blue for a sorcery. Each player with fewer cards in hand than the player with the most cards in hand draws cards equal to the difference. And yes, you can foretell it for 1 and a blue. Again, this is kind of the same thing as like I don't want to be providing an advantage to my opponents. It has the foretell, which is an exile effect, but I did just put a more reliable source of draw, and that is Mentor the Meek. It's 2 and a white for a 2/2 human soldier. Whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1 if you do draw a card. We're going to be, again, putting out 1/1 spirits, and so every time you do, just pay an extra 1, and you are able to draw cards, and it's just you doing it, which is key. And also, since they're 1/1s, this allows us to have one of our Anthem effects out, whether it's on a creature or an enchantment. After that, it stops being useful, but until then, it does provide us with a really good draw engine. The next 2 cards are a little... okay, they just horrendously break budgets. I think it's the next 3. They're not budget cards. If they were to just say something like, pay 1 life and cast, they would not be in here. It's because they exile that they're in here. So segue out of the way. Cloud Goat Ranger, it's 3 white for a 3/3 giant warrior. When it enters the battlefield, create 3 1/1 white Kithkin creature tokens. You could tap 3 untapped Kithkin you control, and the Cloud Goat Ranger gets +2 or +0 and gains flying until the end of the turn. Again, it's not in the tribe that I want. It's giving me non-flyers. I want as many flyers as I can get, as quickly as I can get. So I replace this with a removal spell that exiles. And that's Misdirection. It's 3 blue. For an instant, you may exile a blue card from your hand rather than play Misdirection's mana cost, and then you change the target spell with a single target. So we're able to protect our commander if we need to, or whatever else, and we get a spirit off of it. Next card is Meteor Golem. It's 7 for a 3/3 Golem. When it enters the battlefield, destroy target non-land permanent opponent controls. Yes, I understand you could blink this. It's just so expensive to get on the battlefield. And we're in blue-white, which is not that great for ramp. So this is going to be a mid-game removal that, yes, we can blink it. But other than that, it doesn't provide us with anything else. I want quick, and I want exile triggers. Which we do have some bounce in here, but still. So I kind of got lucky on a pack that I opened, and I got this. Force of Will. It's 3 blue. For an instant, you may pay 1 life and exile a blue card from your hand rather than pay this spell's mana cost counter target spell. Again, this could have said pay 1 life and counter target spell, and I probably wouldn't have put it in here. I want the exile trigger. The next card I removed is Banishing Light. It's 2 and a white for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Banishing Light leaves the battlefield. I'm not a big fan of the I removed it, and then you can remove my removal to get what I removed back. I'm not a fan of these. So I went ahead and removed that and placed it with Hangered Executioner. It's 2 and a white for 1/1 spirit. It has flying. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. So it already enters, and it provides me with one of my spirits already. You could pay 3 and a white and exile it, and then you exile target creature. No it coming back. And the interesting thing about this is that it provides us one with it when it comes in. As long as the commander is out and I exile it, it provides another one from the cast or from the ability cost. And then when I exile the permanent, then I get another one. So this one card with the commander out provides us with 3 different spirits. Next card I removed is Mist Raven. It's 2 blue for a 2/2 bird with flying. When it enters the battlefield, return target creature to its owner's hand. Yes, I understand we can bounce this. It's not really in the tribe. I wanted to get as many spirits going in here as I could. So I went ahead and removed this one. Plus, there's cheaper ways of doing this. If you want the blink effect, there's a jellyfish that does it. And I believe there's a wizard that does it for 2 and a blue each. So you could use either of those. I went ahead and went for straight removal that says exile, and that's Radiant Purge. It's 1 and a blue. Exile target multicolored creature or multicolored enchantment. So instead of just targeting a creature with this, we can also hit an enchantment. And I'm pretty sure that we could find something that's multicolored. I don't find that too much of a hindrance, especially for 2 mana and being an instant. The next card I removed was Angel of Serenity. It's 4 white for a 5/6 angel. It has flying. When it enters the battlefield, you may exile up to 3 other target creatures from the battlefield and or creatures from the graveyards. When it leaves the battlefield, return the exile cards to their owner's hands. It doesn't put them directly back onto the battlefield and they have to recast them. It's really expensive again, especially with the mana cost of being 3 white pips on it. And it's not in the tribe that I want. It's an angel. I'm not always using that against cards, but I will point it out when it comes across. And I kind of felt that was sort of a really weak board wipe, so I went ahead and added in Doomscar. It's 3 white, and it destroys all creatures. But you can foretell it, and you pay it down for 2, and then you cast it on another turn for 1 white. So this is a board wipe for 3 mana, essentially. Or 5 if you want to count the split up cost. But in either case, when we foretell, it'll give us our spirit, and it wipes just all the creatures. The next card I removed is Marshal's Anthem. It's 2 white for an enchantment. It has a multi-kicker, which just means you can pay the kicker over and over and over again. Creatures you control get +1/+1. When Marshal's Anthem enters the battlefield, return up to X target creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the number of times Marshal's Anthem was kicked. I felt that to get really good value out of this, you're paying an insane amount of mana, and being in white, that's not something we usually have a lot of. So I just figured something with just the Anthem effect would be much better. And so I added in Force of Virtue. It's 2 white. It's an enchantment. Creatures you control get +1/+1, but if it's not your turn, you may exile a white card from your hand rather than play the spell's mana cost, and it has flash, so we can use this as a surprise tactic, a combat trick, and we can also get a spirit off of it. The next card I removed is Warhorn Blast. It's 4 and a white for an instant. Creatures you control get +2/+1 until the end of the turn, and it has a foretell cost of 2 and a white. Especially Commander, I'm not a big fan of temporary bonuses. They're not my favorite thing in the world. I do like that this has the foretell mechanic, and I would have gotten a spirit off of it, but I went for something a little bit more saucier and that protects us as well as boosts all of our spirits. And that's Drugskull Captain. It's 1, a white, and a blue for a 2/2 Spirit Soldier. It has flying. Other spirits you control get +1/+1 and have hexproof. Again, I like forcing my opponents into using board wipes. I know that sounds crazy, but if you think about it, most people run more spot removal than they do board wipes in general. And I like to push those buttons and force them to do things. Because if I'm forcing my opponent to do things, I find that they panic more. And so again, this just kind of forces that board wipe with having hexproof. The next card I removed is Stormherd. It's 8 white for sorcery. Create X 1/1 white Pegasus creature tokens with flying, where X is your life total. Yes, this is high impact. It could put as many as, 20, 30, 40 plus Pegasus, which is really hard to block, into the battlefield. It took me a while to actually remove this, and I went with a card that not only helps me and my board, but hurts my opponent and their board. Especially if I'm paying 10. That's one of the themes throughout the upgrades that I've been doing, is that I always want to take that overall converted mana cost down. I always want to be pulling that back. And so I added Alesh Norin, the Grand Cenobite. It's 5 white for a legendary Praetor. It's a 4/7. It has vigilance. Other creatures I control get +2/+2, and other creatures your opponents control get -2/-2. And again, this just helps our board and really hurts their board. And it may take some heat off of our commander. This is a huge target and may incentivize a board wipe. Oh, Day of the Dragons. 4 blue for an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, exile all creatures you control. Then create that many 5/5 red dragon creature tokens with flying. Then when Day of the Dragons leaves the battlefield, sacrifice all dragons you control, then return the exile creatures to the battlefield under your control. How I wanted this card to be so good, but the commander has restrictions. The commander says, whenever you exile 1 or more cards from your hand, enter a permanent from the battlefield. In other words, if we were to cast Day of Dragons with... Actually, it wouldn't even work, but if somehow you can bring these out with him in play, it just, the whole mechanic doesn't work. He exiles the commander. When you do mass wipes like this, you only get 1 spirit per the wipe. It's just a card that you think goes in, but it just really doesn't. It's expensive, it doesn't work, it exiles the commander. Even if it didn't, it's only providing you with 1 extra spirit plus a bunch of 5/5 dragons. So I went with another card from my Brago deck that just allows me to have fun over and over and over again. And that's Deadeye Navigator. It's 4 blue for a 5/5 spirit with Soul Bond, which means you may pair this creature with another unpaired creature. When either enters the battlefield, they remain paired for as long as you control both of them. And then its ability is, as long as Deadeye Navigator is paired with another creature, each of those creatures has pay a colorless and a blue, exile this creature, and return to the battlefield under your control. So you could just blink, 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 as long as you've got mana to do so. It's kind of the effect that I wanted from Day of Dragons, where you could just do this massive blink and get a ton of spirits, but it's a little bit more regulated and it's not a one-shot deal. But still, very much fun, and it provides us with spirits and is a spirit. The next card I removed is Angel Finality. It's 3 and a white for a 3/4 angel with flying. When enters the battlefield, exile cards from target player's graveyard. This does nothing for our commander. Our commander cares about exiling from your hand and the battlefield, not the graveyard. If it was the graveyard, this would be sweet. I kind of wish it read, whenever you exile a card from anywhere, then this card would totally be awesome. But it's not. So I added something to kind of help us with the foretell mechanic, and that's the Cosmos Charger. It's 3 and a blue for a 3/3 horse spirit. It has flying, and flash. Foretell cards from your hand cost 1 less, so when you play it, it only costs 1, not 2. And it can be done on any player's turn. And it has a foretell also itself for 2 and a blue. Again, this just helps us with being able to put those cards down a little bit quicker. Hopefully they expand on this foretell mechanic because I think it's great. And hopefully it's in future sets. The more that come out, the more will go into this deck. The next card I removed is Ghostly Prison. It's 2 and a white for an enchantment. Creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature they control that's attacking you. It's a great card. You could leave this in. There's no other cards in here. You can add Propaganda, and I think there's another one. There's a few cards that have this kind of effect. I think either remove it, which I did, or expand on it. Because if you can do this, then it kind of keeps the heat off of you while you're building your board. I chose to remove it, and I replaced it with Invocation of Saint Traft. It's 1 a white and a blue. Enchanted creature. You enchant a creature. Enchanted creature has, whenever this creature attacks, put a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying into the battlefield, tapped and attacking. Then, keyword, exile that token at the end of combat. So yes, we lose the angel. No, I did not put Sundial of the Infinite in here. You most certainly are welcome to. But we still get the spirit token back. Ooh, horrendous card time. Replicating Ring. 3 for a snow artifact. Tap, add 1 mana of any color. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a night counter on Replicating Ring. Then if it has 8 or more night counters on it, remove all of them and create 8 color snow artifact tokens named Replicated Ring with tap, add 1 mana of any color. This takes so long to get through. If you play it on curve, you're talking turn, 11 before you get these? By then, even casual games are over. So I had a little fun. I put in Mystic Reflection. It's 1 and a blue. Choose target non-legendary creature. The next time 1 or more creatures or planeswalkers enter the battlefield this turn, they enter as copies of the chosen creature, and it has a foretell cost, very cheap foretell cost, so you can use this in response to host somebody else's creature, or with one of your creatures, to copy either something really awesome on your board or even somebody else's board. Plus it gives us the exile trigger from the foretell. Next card I removed is Inspired Sphinx. It's 5 blue for a 5/5 Sphinx. It has flying. When it enters the battlefield, draw cards equal to the number of opponents you have. So 1, 2, or 3 cards. And then pay 3 and a blue, create a colorless 1/1 Thopter artifact creature token with flying. It's not doing what I want, and I removed this purely for tribal reasons. Because I replace it with something that costs exactly the same and does something very similar. It's Drugskull Cavalry. It's 5 white, so same CMC. For a 4/4 Spirit Knight with flying, when it enters the battlefield, under your control, you gain 2 life, who cares? But its ability is pay 3 and a white and put a 1/1 Spirit Creature token with flying into the battlefield. So just straight out swap for something that's in our tribe. Oh, Core Cartographer, I will remove you from every deck and throw you into a trash bin. It's 3 and a white, 2/2 Core Scout. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a plains card, put into the battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library. It's just bad draw, or it's bad ramp. It's really bad ramp. 4 is too much for this. I have no desire for that card to be in any of my decks. So I went ahead and replaced it with Geist of the Saint Traft. It's 1, a white, and a blue. For a Spirit Cleric, it's a 2/2. It has hexproof. When it attacks, put a 4/4 White Angel creature token with flying into the battlefield tapped, and at the end of combat, exile the token. So it's the same thing as the Invocation of Saint Traft, basically. You get the token, you lose the angel, but we're still doing that exile trigger thing. The next card I removed is Gold Knight Commander. It's 3 and a white for 2/2. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, creatures you control get +1/+1 till the end of the turn. This is one that I removed and put kind of a really obscure card in. I wanted something that was singularly more impactful, and that was the Pride of the Clouds. It's not in our tribe, but it's very interesting. It's 1 white and 1 blue for an elemental cat. That's a 1/1 flyer. It has +1/+1 for each other creature in play with flying. So we're going to have a lot of flying creatures. And it has 4 casts. You can reveal Pride of the Clouds from your hand, put a 1/1 white and blue bird creature token with flying into play. I know it's outside of our tribe, but I thought it was fun. And it's cheap. It's only 2 converted mana cost, and it's going to have a huge impact on the board as a flyer. Next card I removed was also another hard one to kind of remove. It's Evangel of Heliod. It's 4 white for 1/3 human cleric. When it enters the battlefield, create a number of 1/1 white creature tokens equal to the number of devotion to white, which is just the number of pips on the battlefield. So this would have a devotion of 1 to white. It can swing and miss, and sometimes it's not going to be helpful. So I, again, went through my tribal spirits and grabbed a Drukskull Reaver. This is one of the few cases where I went up in CMC, but I'm willing to make the exception. It's 5 white blue for a 3/5 spirit with flying, double strike, and lifelink. Whenever you gain life, draw a card. So if we're hitting twice with this, we're drawing 2 cards, provides us with an advantage. Plus it can be kind of hard to remove it's just hard to remove in combat. And has a way of buffering our life, which is nice. The next card I removed is Nico Defies Destiny. It's 1 and a white and a blue. Gain 2 life for each foretold card you own in exile. That can be impactful. Add a white and a blue. Spend this mana only to foretell cards or cast spells that have foretell. Not very impactful, especially with our commander. Return target card with foretell from your graveyard to your hand. That can be useful. It's all kind of iffy. And I saw nobody add this card, and I was like, wow, I am so surprised nobody added this card. At least nobody that I watched did. And that's Venser the Sojourner. It's 3 white and a blue for Planeswalker. He enters with 3 loyalty. He has a +2. Exile target permanent you own. Return it to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next end step. And you can -1. Creatures are unblockable this turn, so that could be huge. And its -8 is just awesome if you can get it. And that's, you get an emblem with whenever you cast a spell, exile target permanent. If you can get that, exile triggers everywhere, and you're just killing their board. The next card I removed is Surtland Elementist. It's a 8/8 for 5 and 2 blue. It's a giant wizard. As an additional cost to cast this spell, reveal a giant card from your hand or pay 2, which there's like no giants. It's pretty slim. When it attacks, you may cast an instant or sorcery from your hand without paying its mana cost. Circumstantial, probably not going to happen. It's going to be on the board. It broadcasts. Just yikes. So I replaced it with Revelark. It's 4 and a white for a 4/3 elemental that has flying. When it leaves the battlefield, return up to 2 target creatures cards with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, and you can invoke it for 5 and a white. Next card I removed is Migratory Route. It's 3, a white, and a blue. For sorcery, you create 4 1/1 white bird creature tokens with flying, and it has basic land cycling for 2. I didn't like it just because it's too much for too little. I replaced it with a great foretell spell. It's Allrun's Epiphany. It's 5 blue for a sorcery. Create 2 1/1 bird creatures. With flying, take an extra turn after this one and exile it. Its foretell cost is 4 blue. And the last card I removed is Arcane Artisan. It's 2 and a blue for a human wizard. It's a 0/3. Pay 2 and a blue. Target player draws a card, then exiles a card from their hand. If a creature card is exiled this way, the player creates a token that's a copy of that card. When this leaves the battlefield, exile tokens created with it at the end of the beginning of the next end step. I found it kind of iffy if you use this on your opponents or yourself. So I just went ahead and added another Anthem effect. And that's Rally the Ranks. It's 1 and a white. When it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Spirits. Creatures you control the chosen type get +1/+1 until the end of the turn. Or no, not until the end of the turn. It's permanent. It's an enchantment. Sorry. They get +1/+1. Whew. I ran fast on that one because we had a lot of cards to cover. I hope you get something from this one. This one would be a great one. I love doing this one. I had the most fun with this deck. If there's something you think I missed, most certainly let me know, because I just kind of went nuts and had a lot of fun with it and put things I thought would have been fun. Yeah, some of them are kind of iffy, like that elemental thing, but anyhow. In any case, I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. We'll see. But until we do, have a good one.